Hello, good evening. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening to you all. Right, so today we will be starting with Unit 7. Yesterday we concluded Unit 6 on materials and aids. Today of materials and aids, and today we will be starting with Unit 7. Right, so did you manage to complete the self-study task related to Unit 6? I'm not referring to yesterday's one, the previous ones. Have you finished?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. If you had finished, it's okay. If not, don't just have it in arrears, try to complete it. Right. When it comes to Unit 7, it's on teaching productive skills. Right. So we will be discussing how to handle productive skills. Already we have seen how to teach reading. Reading is a receptive skill. Listening and reading are receptive skills, which we have already discussed. Today, we are starting with productive skills, how to handle productive skills in the classroom, as well as certain factors related to the productive skills, right? Look at the subtopics that we will be covering today. Basic considerations of speaking related to speaking skill. What are we supposed to know? It can be in terms of assessing the speaking skill or maybe teaching speaking skill, all those. Then the sub skills of speaking. What are the sub skills that the teacher has to take into account when doing a speaking lesson, right? So in the classroom, when we are teaching speaking or when we are doing a speaking lesson, we will be addressing one of these sub skills. Thereby, we need to know the different sub skills that come under the speaking skill. Then
Madam,
only
can
we
you
will be
kindly,
able to
Madam, the first
we
slide,
will be able
please.
to address one of those speaking sub skills. Yes.
That's okay, madam. At the end, I'll ask. But now we can carry on with the class, madam.
Right. Then you have the two concepts, accuracy versus fluency, right? So under speaking, we look for fluency. And when it comes to the writing skill, we focus more on accuracy, right? So it doesn't mean that you can ignore accuracy when it comes to speaking skill. You need to be accurate, but the predominant focus is on fluency. Then in terms of speaking activities, in a 3P lesson, during the practice stage and the production stage, we need to assign several speaking activities for the learners to practice and produce their own language. When we construct or when we try to prepare speaking activities, what are the basic principles that we have to adhere to? Then the activities to develop speaking skills, classroom activities. Here the principles, we are focusing on the principles, and here it is the activities, sample activities. And then a brief introduction to a speaking lesson. Take the snapshot. Right. Read. So why should we teach the speaking skill? First of all, more than that of reading, writing, grammar, vocabulary. Why is speaking skill important when it comes to a second language or a foreign language context? So through speaking skill, we make the learners to become efficient or to communicate efficiently. You know, language, the basic function of a language is to promote communication. And more than that of written communication, spoken communication stands out. It is the initial form of communication that is used. Therefore, to enable the learners to communicate properly with one another. That is the main aim. Then you have to help them to learn various language functions. It is through a speaking lesson that the learners are introduced to the different language functions. Therefore, to make them aware of different language functions as well as the language that is needed to perform that function. Fluency, to improve their fluency in language, to promote pronunciation, express their own desires, feelings, opinions, emotions, everything. So these are some general facts why speaking skills or a speaking lesson is taught or should be taught in the class. Tell me some features of spoken language. Think of the written language and think of the spoken language and try to compare both of these and come out with any features that are relevant to the spoken language or that stand out when it comes to the spoken language than that of the written one.
It is mainly focused on fluency.
Right, fluency based. So the speaking skill itself is focusing mainly on fluency. Think of the language that we use. The
Accent,
difference that you, yeah,
accent,
absence. What is that?
accent.
Accent. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. In the spoken language, you have the accent being a part of it. In written
Comprehension?
language, accent or pronunciation is involved. Yeah.
Comprehension?
Comprehension. Even in writing, you need to comprehend, right? So it's common. It can be found in both forms.
Intonation,
Intonation, right? You have the accent, you have intonation as part of the spoken language. What else?
tone of voice, tone of voice,
What is that?
tone of voice.
Tone, right? So basically, intonation, tone, pitch, pause, everything collectively, you can say spoken language involves the suprasegmental features, whereas in written language, you don't have suprasegments being practiced. What is the counterpart that you can, the nearest counterpart that you can find in the written language? Now you can't indicate the tone or maybe the intonation. There are symbols or there are signs to mark those, but more than that,
Pronunciation of words correctly?
pronunciation is connected to spoken language.
Meaning,
Meaning, the other one doesn't have meaning. Written language.
Ability to deliver or communicate in a proper way, like you should be able to express yourself to the other person to be understood.
Expression. So it's So how are we expressing? What is the mode or what are the techniques that we use to express?
We need correct grammar, correct
Grammar.
vocabulary to pass across a message. So that is basically you speak to someone and that person understand you, and somebody else speaks, so you understand. So like spoken language is basically about understanding what the other person says and ability to follow the instructions.
That's correct. But now the question is, you have to find certain features that can be attributed only to the spoken language, not to the written language. Now, when it comes to written English, they are also we are using vocabulary, grammar, and the reader and the writer needs to understand each other. So it's common. What I'm asking is something specific to this spoken language. Now, for example, when we speak, what kind of forms or maybe what kind of verbs, words, not verbs, words are used? Do you write the same way you speak each and every sentence or maybe each and every utterance? Can you just write the same way you speak?
No.
Colloquialism, we say.
So colloquialism is a feature. It's something specific to spoken language. Yes.
Another way you can say it, as I do remember, like turn taking when it comes to spoken English, the
Right.
dialogue communicate.
You have to wait patiently, take your turn, and then respond. You don't have that feature present in written language. And think of the extended forms. Now, when we speak, what kind of forms are mostly being used in spoken language, in colloquial terms? Compare it with, if I go to tell the word,
Informal language.
informal language, yes. Informal words. It can be slangs. We use slangs in communication. Now, do you say, I have 3 brothers or I have something? Instead of that, how do you?
Contractions. Contractions.
Right? So spoken language, in spoken language, contracted forms are mostly used. But in written language, it doesn't mean that we don't use or we ignore contracted form. Comparatively, contractions are used less. Any other feature? Now, we are talking or we attempt to speak on a particular topic, right? So it can be something that you did in the morning. But when you
Use
find
of idioms.
idioms or, okay, use of idioms, and when you find that it's irrelevant, you quickly change the topic or maybe you divert it to a different topic or maybe you totally change the topic. Is it possible to do that in the written form? You start writing about something else. Halfway through, you think, now this is something embarrassing, therefore let me change the topic and write a different thing. It's not possible, right? In that case, you have to totally delete it and write a fresh page. You can't stop where you have stopped what you had started and bring in a totally different topic. You call it the false start, right? So in speaking, it's possible to have false start. Once you start the topic and suddenly you realize it's not something to be told or it has to be changed, immediately then and there we divert it. But that is not possible when it comes to the writing skill. Likewise, look at the features. Now you all have mentioned certain features. Eye contact. Spoken language involves eye contact. We look eye to eye and speak mostly. You don't have that in written form. Turn taking, you told. Repetition. In the spoken language, you can ask for clarification. Information, there is a tendency for the information to get repeated several times. But when it comes to written form, there can be repetition, but mostly repetition is avoided unless for a specific purpose. Just go through this. Fillers, right? Halfway through, if you lack information, if you don't have anything to speak on that topic, you tend to fill the time or cover the time by using fillers. That's not possible with the written form of language. So when spoken language or when speaking skills are being taught, these are some of the features that we need to take into account. We need to understand in spontaneous speech, all these should be present. Oral active skills, writing is more or less a passive skill. You can take your own sweet time, write some sentences, then just close the book, do something else, and then come and continue. But speaking is not like that. Whatever that you have started to speak, you have to finish. Therefore, it's identified as an active skill that needs immediate completion. The rest of it, I think we talked about. Paralinguistic features, support spoken language. All these, they are intertwined with spoken language. What should we teach in speaking? Tell me, what should we teach in a speaking lesson? You can teach pronunciation. What else can you teach?
The background knowledge of the lesson.
Okay, something related to the topic.
Contractions.
Sorry?
Contractions.
Contractions, okay. Using contraction forms.
Using discourse
Idiom.
markers.
Using idioms.
The grammar.
The grammar, basic
Yes.
Idioms.
idioms. Colloquialism. Colloquial.
Command forms.
What forms?
Command.
Command. Orders, commands.
A formal, informal way of speaking.
Expression. Formal expressions and informal way of expressions. Look at the standard sub-skills that are connected to the act of speaking or maybe to teaching speaking. Just like having a set of sub-skills for reading and listening, we do have a set of sub-skills for speaking. Thereby, the teachers should follow or should address one of these sub-skills in any of their lessons, right? So the lesson can be based on one of these sub-skills. You can teach accuracy, fluency, pronunciation, how to listen to another person and comprehend, listening comprehension, and responding, taking turn and responding. When it comes to role play, listening, responding is taught. Role play, dialogues, everything. They emphasize on comprehending and responding, and also turn taking. Appropriate language. If you know the language, it's not enough. For a effective communication, you should know the language, and also you should know the culture or maybe the scenario in which the language is being used. It can be certain cultural issues, or it can be to the person to whom you are addressing or speaking, depending on the role relationship. The language you use may differ. The language means the language forms. In terms of respect, you can't speak to your superior just like you speak to your friend, or maybe to a dignitary, or maybe to a religious reverend. You can't speak the same way you address your co-worker. We need certain polite forms to be used over there. So all those come under the appropriateness of language. Then the clarity of communication, using suitable cohesive devices, right? Linking devices. It can be the conjunctions, it can be the sequence markers, phrases, words, all those, right? Intelligibility of speech should be taught. Turn taking, we saw. Articulation. Meaning of an utterance may change according to the way it is spoken. Something to do with pronunciation once again, right? If you articulate the wrong way, O into O, maybe whole as hall, the meaning of the utterance may change completely. The meeting was held at the hall. It seems to be an absurd sentence. It should be hall. So the way of articulation, all those need to be taught. Polite forms. Right? So remember the sub-skills related to speaking. It can be with any speaking activity. You need to address one of these sub-skills. Go through the sub-skills once again. So what are the subs? How many sub-skills are there altogether?
8.
8, right? So we tend to practice pronunciation or focus more on pronunciation. But remember, it's not wrong to focus more on pronunciation. Definitely pronunciation, articulation, they are needed. But other than that, be aware of the other sub-skills as well. Even those sub-skills need to be addressed. When we use a role play or maybe a drama or a dialogue, appropriateness of language can be found over there. We don't realize it, but it is there. We don't emphasize on that fact. We don't realize it, but definitely it's getting addressed. Then you have accuracy and fluency. What do you mean by accuracy? And what do you mean by fluency? If the language is accurate, how should it appear to be?
Correctly formed, grammatically formed.
Error-free language. There shouldn't be any errors. Grammatically, it should be accepted and without any mistakes or errors. Fluency means, what is that?
Speaks like native or near native fluency of the use of language. Like there are no, what do we call,
Article.
not articulation, like sometimes we slow down in the use of language when we are like fillers. Without fillers, there is a fluency. There is a speed of utterance.
Speed of utterance. So
Yes.
you speak accurately, don't you have that speed being practiced?
Sometimes because when you talk, sometimes you tend to think for words. You will stop and like you will stop
You
somewhere trying to fill up a word, and you will be thinking about it, where you will lose the fluency. It shortens your fluency.
You mean to say that uh, catching up with the speed and trying to
Catching
express.
up with it. Exactly. So yeah, like you're lost and you're looking for words in your mind, which makes your speed of speaking is less accurate or less impressive.
Right. So basically, now that can be one strand of fluency when you consider fluency, or when you try to um, give points for fluency, or mark, give any kind of marks for fluency. That can be considered as one part of it. But basically, fluency means the ability to communicate your idea in spite of having errors. There can be errors, but in spite of it, if you are able to convey the message that you intend to convey to the other person successfully, then you are considered to be a fluent speaker. You can convey it in different speeds. You can stop for a while, think, and then come out with your idea. Or at once, you can just completely express your idea. It doesn't matter. The basic criteria that we look for fluency is, in spite of any kind of mistakes or errors, if the act of communication can be performed successfully, that means that person is can be considered a fluent user of the language. Here, the same message is getting conveyed, but you don't find any errors or mistakes taking place. Right? So that is the difference. In here, the language is error-free and perfect, and the speaker manages to convey the message. Here, using some kind of ill-formed language, or maybe language with errors, the message is getting conveyed. When it comes to spoken language, fluency is emphasized more. We emphasize more on fluency. Even if there are some small mistakes here and there, it can be accepted. But accuracy, we don't look for accuracy when it comes to spoken language. In the written form, we emphasize on accuracy. Accuracy becomes the important demand for written language? Why do you think that they are focusing on accuracy more when it comes to the written form and not in the spoken form? What can be the reason? Just try to figure out any reasons to emphasize accuracy more in written form.
Because when it's written, already the message is conveyed, whether it's right or wrong. But when we utter it, we can just adjust. Like if it's wrong, we can correct it.
Yeah, you can, but can't you edit it then? When it comes to written form, you write and you can tip exit,
Yes.
hit exit and edit it.
Yeah, we can do that also. That's all time, no? Like if you send a letter, it's gone.
It's gone, exactly. So in written form, there is evidence, whatever that you have written, unless you erase it or you tear it off and dispose it, there is some kind of an evidence. Usually documentation is possible with written language. Mostly it's for the purpose of documentation or to have as evidence. But when it comes to spoken language, very seldom you have it as evidence. Today you can record it and keep it in your phone as an evidence. That is possible. But standard when it comes to the accepted way or accepted standards, written documents are considered to be evidence. If when it comes to the spoken form, whatever you speak is lost for eternity unless you record it and keep. Thereby, errors or maybe small mistakes are not taken into account. If you are able to communicate the message, fine. Read. Accuracy and fluency are two interrelated, interdependent terms. So remember, there is a very close connection between these two, accuracy and fluency. They go hand in hand. What is accuracy? Expressing the ideas without any flaws, errors in terms of grammar or meaning. Using the exact vocabulary, making use of the perfect words, the perfect grammar. If you express your idea, it's considered to be accurate language. Focuses on perfect sentence construction. So in terms of grammar, as well as syntax and morphology, both are considered when it comes to accuracy. Considered in writing. So it's emphasized more on writing. Fluency, see, expressing ideas clearly in spite of inaccuracy. You don't look for perfection. There can be some mistakes or errors, but those mistakes and errors can be accommodated when it comes to fluency. We are checking for the fluency, whether the person is able to meaningfully communicate, convey his message successfully. That is the criteria that we look for under fluency. And it's considered in speaking. A balance should be maintained between accuracy and fluency for a good level of communication. So we can't always hide behind the fact, thinking It's fluency that is getting more emphasis when it comes to speaking spoken language. Therefore, I can talk whatever nonsense I want and still I'll be considered, or it can be accepted. There can be mistakes, but the essence of communication should not be lost. The meaning that we intend to convey should not be lost. Then only that person can be considered as a fluent speaker. Look at these examples. Look at the first one. He always wants to go to cinema. Is it a correct sentence? Now don't read the rest of it. Just by looking at the sentence, tell me, is it correct or wrong? Accurate or wrong? What can you tell about both of these sentences? Are they correct in
The
terms of
first one
grammar?
always should come at the end. In the second one, you don't say to home, I went home.
Other than always coming at the end, don't you have any other errors?
Want to go to
He always wants to go to cinema, right? So the S is missing. Subject verb agreement, you don't have proper agreement, right? So he wants to go to cinema always, or he always wants to go to cinema, it should be. So there is a mistake, error. What about the second one?
I went home.
I went home. To is not needed. So both sentences are inaccurate. You can't consider them as accurate sentences in terms of grammar. But still, are they conveying the meaning or the message that
They do convey the meaning.
they do? Therefore, they can be considered as fluent sentence. Right? So even though there are mistakes, now here there is only one mistake in each of these sentences. But even though if there are many mistakes, in spite of having many mistakes, if they convey the message or the idea, then they are considered to be fluent ones. Right? So not the sentences are not considered, the speaker is considered to be a fluent user of language. Look at the third one. Does it convey any meaningful idea? When you read this sentence, the third sentence, are you able to visualize or are you able to think of any meaningful idea?
No.
You can, but it depends on the person. Now, based on the sentence, the animal run sanctuary I saw, different people can interpret different meanings. There can be multiple interpretations. Now I can say the animal was running out of the sanctuary. I saw it running, coming out of the sanctuary, running out of the sanctuary. You may say it was running within the sanctuary. Right? When I saw it was running, another one can say when I saw it was running somewhere, or it was not in the sanctuary, it was near, outside, inside. So there are several interpretations possible. Thereby, this sentence or this utterance, more than a sentence in speaking, it's utterance. This utterance is not conveying a clear-cut idea. Hence, you can't consider it as a fluent sentence. It lacks accuracy and it lacks fluency as well. It's just a collection of words. That's all. Some kind of basic idea, animal and sanctuary are given over there. So the more you don't have accuracy, the more the errors increase, definitely it will have an impact on fluency as well. When there are many errors, fluency will be lost. That is what has happened to this utterance. So these kind of sentences need to be reframed, and also teacher has to correct these. Immediate corrections are needed. With these kind of sentences, you can tolerate. You don't have to stop the speaker immediately and correct. Maybe you need to correct it, but it can be done at a later stage. These ones, then and there, teacher has to correct the speaker or ask him to reframe, help him out to reframe the sentence. Right, so that is all about accuracy, fluency. And always remember, when it comes to teaching speaking skill, fluency is considered, and you can accommodate minor errors, not major errors, minor errors that do not distort the meaning. If they distort the meaning, then of course attention should be paid to them, right? If not, you don't have to stop the child every now and then and ask him to correct. That will not, it will discourage him. It will not motivate him to go ahead with the act of communication. Tell me something about accuracy and fluency now soon.
Accuracy and fluency go hand in hand because it has to be in some extent accurate. The sentence, the utterance has to be in some extent correct so that somebody would understand what you say.
So that fluency can be maintained. Then we come to principles align speaking activities. In the presentation stage, we don't have any speaking activities. We present the teaching component. So speaking activities are a part during the practice and action stage. When we are preparing or constructing any speaking activity, these are the principles that we need to remember, right? So a speaking activity should create the need to communicate. If they can just limit or complete the activities, whatever the activity that is assigned, just by reading or maybe by listening to somebody speaking and finish it out, then it's not a good speaking activity. There should be the need to speak to another person imperative, right? Whatever the activity that we are creating, it should make the person, make the learner to speak to another. It can be to a single person or maybe to different people, members of the group, to communicate. That is the most important principle. It should always induce the learner to speak. It should provide a reason or a purpose to speak, not just to speak, with some kind of purpose, maybe finding out the date of birth. So there is a purpose. When you ask the students to stand in a line according to their date of birth, now it doesn't mean that all 40 in the class will know the date of birth of all the 40, the rest of their friends, 37 or 39. Right? So therefore they need to go and speak, ask the other person why he or she was born. So there you have a reason or a purpose for interaction. Likewise, any activity, speaking activity that we create should have a reason for them to speak. Now, if we just tell, go and stand according to the height order, there is no reason for them to speak. Just by viewing the other person, they will decide where to stand. You can't just tell or assign that kind of an activity as a speaking activity. Or maybe inquiring what they had for what food they had during interval. They need not to ask the other person what he or she brought as food for interval. They might have already known it. So there is no purpose in setting such kind of an activity. Right? Third one, it should be based on information gap. Information gap principle means you need some information, collect some information from the other person. Similarly, the other person also has the need to get some information from you. Then only both of you can interact. You will interact. Otherwise, you can just keep quiet. So these are the 5 principles. Students should be made aware of the communicative value, what they learn out of it, right? Why they are communicating, and through the act of communication, what can they learn? Maybe the polite forms of language, maybe the emotions involved, right? All those need to be taken into consideration. And also the activity should correspond to the real life context. Speak what you would do if you visit the moon. That is something imaginary. Now in real life, the learner is not going to visit the moon. Maybe 1 out of 1,000 or 10,000 will get that opportunity. Therefore, any activity that is created should correspond to the real life context. Maybe what we would do if you visit a park or maybe a museum. That is something connected to the real life context. They will have the opportunity of visiting a museum or maybe a park. Brainstorm for the possible speaking, tell some speaking activities. Any speaking activities based on, most of the activities are based on these principles. Whatever the speaking activities that you know. Now, tongue twister, you can't say. They don't, of course, they provide a reason to make, to articulate the proper sounds, right? So,
Dialogues, role plays.
what are they?
Dialogues,
Dialogues, right?
role plays.
Role plays, dialogues. Interviews, right? When you are conducting an interview, there is an information gap. There is a need for communication. What else? Tell me the names of speaking activities, any speaking activity that we do in class. Most of them adhere to these rules. They don't have to adhere to all 5. It can be maybe with 2 or 3 principles.
We can give a picture to
Yes.
the students and we can ask them to discuss about it.
Give what pictures?
Pictures, yes. Describing
Yeah.
it and
Picture descriptions, discussions based on pictures, questions. You can even put the topic and answer to discuss. Yeah.
Debates.
Debates, good debates.
Role plays.
Role plays. Somebody mentioned that role plays and dialogues. Discussions, debates, role
Arguments.
plays, arguments. Okay. Defending the topic or defending the point of view before you start engaging yourself in a debate, a mini debate, like you just come out with your own point of view and you try to defend it. For example, your ambition. You can ask the learner about his ambition and why he likes that particular ambition. So he has to defend it. He has to come out with some reasons. Expressing opinions, defending them. Any other? When it comes to academic, any kind of academic setup, what are they asked to do? Just like assignments, what is another? Something that starts in PRE, finish
Presentation.
presentations, right? So they have to prepare their own presentation and deliver it. So that is also a kind of speaking activity. You need to present your point of view, give reasons, defend it, explain it. What are the other speaking activities?
Playing dramas inside the classroom.
Dramatizing activities, dramas. So mostly it depends on memory. Whatever they have memorized, they are made to dramatize it. But still, for all, even if they fail in their memory, they should be able to use their own language and complete it. Right? Speeches. It can be prepared speech, more than that of prepared speech, impromptu speech. You give them the title, allocate about, say, 10 to 15 minutes for them to get prepared for that, and then come and deliver the speech. Go through the activities. Discussions we saw, we discussed. Debates also we had the answer. Problem solving, you assign them with a problem, with a situation. Now one child is coming to school late every day. Never he is on time. What solutions can be taken or how can we make him to come on time? Right? So probable solutions, discussing probable solutions. That is an example for problem solving. So you can give different kinds of problems and ask them to come out with probable solutions for them. Suggest probable solutions along with the reasons. Information gap activities, we'll be looking at them. Role play, simulation, you know what is simulation? Tell me, give me an example for simulation activity.
Stimulation means practical activity.
Practical things. You create a mini situation, the same thing. Now, if it is going to be a parliament session, you create the parliament session. A mini parliament is created in the classroom. There will be a speaker. There will be the two sides, the opposition and then the ruling party. They will have debates, right? Just like what is happening in the parliament. You act it out in the class. Sunday fair, just like what is happening in a Sunday fair, you create a mini Sunday fair in the classroom. You make them to bring certain things. Half of them will be the sellers, the other half will be the buyers. They argue, they bargain. They can use false money or maybe something else to replace money. The transaction will be done. So that kind of an activity, creating mini situations in the classroom, is known to be simulation. So first-hand experience of speaking takes place there. Instructions, giving instructions, commands, speaking out. TPR, total physical response, something similar to that. Not only that, but even lengthy instructions, depending on the learner level, they can give instructions and also obey or respond to instructions. Think of possible language. So these are the activities. Now, these, not only these 7, you have so many other activities like presentation, dramas, and all the other things, right? We can make use of such activities during the practice and production stage, depending on our lesson objective. If we are focusing on teaching a particular language skill, language function, you can make use of role plays or dialogues or whatever possible activity that can get related to that particular language function. Think of possible language functions that can get attributed to a discussion. If we are to do a discussion activity, what kind of language functions, like self-introduction, you know, the different language functions we have studied already. Tell me, what are the different functions that will get involved?
Requesting information.
Yes, requesting information.
Interrupting functions.
Interrupting. Greeting, okay. Greeting. Suggestions, right? In a discussion, you have to suggest something. You have to put forward your own suggestion. What else? When you suggest something, along with your suggestion, what should you be able to do? You can't suggest anything and everything that you want.
You have to use the appropriate model forms.
Yeah, you have to use the modal forms. Good. And also provide reasons, right? Reasoning, why you are giving this suggestion. There should be some reason behind it. So reasoning.
Clarifications.
Asking for clarification. If you don't understand the other person's opinion, you need to ask for clarification. So that becomes a part of the language function.
Agree and disagree.
Agree. Yeah, you can agree, you can disagree. Yeah, depends. So see, before we ask them to engage in a discussion, the learners should be able to handle these kind of language function. Otherwise, what will happen is they will be busy discussing something else, or they won't do anything. They will be just idling. and this activity will never be successful. So before assigning the activity, think of the sub functions or maybe language functions or even words and phrases that are needed for them to perform the act of communication. And those should be practiced beforehand. Then only they should be allowed to engage in that activity. Now, when it comes to discussion, read first. So interrupting or using different techniques to interrupt is definitely needed for a successful discussion. Therefore, see how the language function of interrupting is being taught. First, that is getting addressed, and then the learners are made to engage in the discussion. So this is just one strand of it. Likewise, you have to teach them how to agree, how to disagree. Separately, you need to inform them, and then only make them to engage in the discussion. Discussion needs preparation in relation to the topic and language. So it's quite a challenging kind of an activity. Therefore, it is advisable to practice the needed skills before using different activities. Now, if it is loud reading, no need. They can manage. They can just look at the script and read aloud. If it is dialogues or role plays, prepared dialogues or role plays, you don't need to spend much time. They will look at the script. Halfway through, they can use their own language, or at times they can look at the script and perform the dialogue or role. But when it comes to debates or discussions, they are very challenging activities. Not like just singing a song or a nursery rhyme. They are also speaking activities. So depending on the heaviness of the activity, prior preparation is needed. See how interrupting is being taught by the teacher. Teacher and learners brainstorm for the phrases used in interrupting. So first, language prompts are provided and write them on the board. You can give the flashcards or you can display the needed language phrases on the board. Instruct learners that teacher would be talking and they have to interrupt her. So teacher would be talking, speaking on a topic, and the learners would be interrupting. Teacher is not going to wait and listen. Teacher will continue to talk, and the learners too need to continue to interrupt. So that is how they learn how to interrupt. Teacher rebuffs all their interpretation. That means basically teacher turns a deaf ear to all their interruptions, allowing opportunities for the learners to continue interrupting. So it will appear to be something very impolite, but still for all, the purpose is to make them learn how to interrupt, use different language structures for interrupting. And finally, teacher will answer the questions or the queries of the learners. So likewise, now this is just an example for one language function, how one language function can be taught. Similarly, we need to find ways out to teach the other language functions as well. Look at the language skills needed for discussions. Interrupting is definitely one that is not mentioned here. You are here, polite interrupting. Negotiating meaning, right? Clarifying, reasoning, explaining. Changing the subject from one point of view to the other. All these, agreeing, disagreeing, all these are sub-skills connected to discussion. So the learners should be able to at least handle some of these if they are to engage in discussions. Debates.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, can you move to the first slide, ma'am? Yeah.
This one? Oh,
Yes,
one
ma'am.
before this.
No, ma'am, this one.
Okay. Done?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So debates, just like discussions, debates too are a very advanced kind of a speaking activity, challenging activity. Unlike a recitation, now recitation, it purely depends on the memory. If you are good or if you are very sound in your memory, then you can obviously recite a poem or deliver a speech. But debates, engaging in a debate is not like that. You need to argue, you need to refute, you need to present reason out for your this thing point of view. So there are so many higher order thinking skills apart from language. So many higher order thinking skills, analytical, evaluating, logical thinking, all those higher order thinking skills get related to debates. Thereby, we can't expect the learners to engage in these kind of activities at once. They need plenty of practice in terms of language and in terms of content. If they don't have the content, they won't be able to speak. So just before making them to do debates, you have the concept of balloon debates that can be practiced in the class as a preparation for real debates. So in balloon debates, they just come out with their own ideas. Balloon debate means it's now in a hot air balloon, you find 5 or 6 characters traveling. It can be a politician, it can be a doctor, a teacher, an engineer, any person. You have to just think of imaginary characters flying in a hot air balloon. Halfway through, there's some kind of a technical fault is there in the balloon and the balloon is going to crash. Therefore, one person, due to overload, the balloon is going to crash. So one person has to jump out of the balloon. Now the task is each of them have to defend themselves, saying that they are not willing to jump out since they are needed for the country. So the politician can say, I can't jump out and lose my life. I am needed to govern the country. So if I die, there won't be anybody else to replace me. Similarly, the accountant or the engineer has to come out with a reason. So it's a very limited form of a reason. You don't have refuting, you don't have arguing with the other person, you just present your opinion. With weak learners or maybe with average ones, it works out very well before you make them engage in a debate. Right? So just presenting their own ideas or logically presenting their own ideas. That is how balloon debates work. So this can be a starting point, and then you make them argue, contradict, and refute the other person's point of view. Then we need to look at information gap activities. Look at the focus your attention two of these pictures where you have a bedroom or something. Now, when it comes to an information gap activity, always it is done using pictures. Similar kind of pictures. Pictures which are more or less similar. There will be differences, but very subtle differences. When you look at the pictures at once, they seem to be similar. But if you closely look at them, you will find some differences. Now, one person will have the A picture. The partner will have the B picture. They have to sit back to back. They can't sit side by side. Then there is a probability of peeping and looking into the other person's picture. So you can't do the information gap activity if you come to know what is there in his picture. So they need to be put back to back so that they can't turn back and look at the other person's picture. Strict instruction should be given. The activities, now A has to find out, first of all, A has to describe his picture, and also he has to find out where is what is missing in his picture. Compare. Now, the missing objects are given over here. This teddy bear is not there. Ball is not there.
TV.
Clock, TV is not there. Pillow is not there. So he has to ask, where is the pillow? If you ask me where is the pillow, I will look at my picture and I will have to reply, the pillow is on the bed. Then you have to draw the pillow on the bed. Then I need to ask you, where is the lamp? You have to look into your picture and come out with the answer. The lamp is on the window sill. So I should draw the lamp on the window sill. Likewise, they have to ask and answer questions and complete their pictures. A has to draw all these objects in his picture according to the answers given by B. So there is a purpose for communication. B has to draw all these objects in his picture using the answers given by A. Right? So that is what is known as a information gap activity. There is an information gap existing in both pictures. That gap is bridged by asking and answering questions. Now tell me the information here. You don't have the missing objects given in the first picture. Now you tell me what are any possible information gap that can be related to the first set of pictures. This grandmother, there is something related to the grandmother that can get related. What is it? What difference do you find?
There's a hairpin on her hair, but in the second picture, there's no hairpin.
No hairpin. Here you have a hairpin. Here you don't have a hairpin. So the person who is having this picture, he should ask, where is the hairpin placed? The other one should reply. Based on his answer, this person has to draw the hairpin. Any other differences that you can, information that you can attribute?
Pantry.
In the first picture, in the pantry,
Mhm.
there are cups, but in the second one, there are spoons.
Spoons. And the first one, this one, what do you have?
Wine cup, something like a wine cup or a
Right,
water.
yeah. Here, there are spoons or candles, or it's not clear enough. Something else is there in the pantry, not the same object.
And
Look
we
at
can
the
see clock time is different.
Hmm.
And
Any-
there is a cat. In the second picture, there's something close to the cat's face. In the first picture, we don't see anything next to the cat's
that
face.
yellow thing behind the cat. Hmm.
And the bananas,
Number of bananas. How many are there?
2 and 3.
2 and 3.
Yeah,
And
in
the
the second picture, the boy is wearing some socks, I think. But in the first picture, he's not wearing socks, I think.
Yeah, here he is wearing a white sock, and here he is not wearing this.
and the sweets in the tray,
Hmm.
they're different.
The shapes and the color
Yeah, the
both are
color.
different. You have a yellow one here, you have, right? So now these are two different pictures. Person who gets this picture should be given whatever possible information under this picture. It can be, you can draw the hairpin of the grandmother, or maybe the socks of the boy, or else even in written form, you can write down those words and phrases and make them to ask the question. So it's a very useful kind of an activity. Information gap activity is very much practiced to promote speaking skills. The only problem is you need to get some identical pictures, more or less identical pictures with slight differences. Look at the skills needed: clarifying, asking, answering, questioning, giving information. You can get things wrong. You may not understand at the first time itself, so you have to re-ask or clarify things, agree, apologize if there is any mistake. Right? So all these are the related skills that are practiced in an information gap activity. Think of any other skills that can get included into this list. I think everything is included.
Can you give clues, ma'am? If they can't understand, if they can't find out the answers.
Yeah, you can, no problem. You don't have to give the answer, but you can help them with clues. Maybe the first letter of the word or a similar word. Then the role play. Read. It's a limited kind of an activity as long as it's prepared. If it is not prepared, and if the learners have to prepare it, then it becomes a challenging or some kind of a advanced activity, right? Learners are provided with a role card and asked to play the role of a particular character. You can assign a role card, or you can even just ask them to play the character of a role of a particular character, mostly related to the real life situation. Speaking should be encouraged. With the beginners, mostly role play ends up as a reading activity, right? So even though they read, at least certain parts of the utterances should be made to just utter it without reading it aloud. Number of roles should be minimized, very important. The less number of characters, if there are less number of characters, it will be useful for them to practice the role play productively. Each person will definitely get a chance to practice. Speak out. Teacher should demonstrate speaking the roles initially. That's important. Teacher has to demonstrate it. Drill if there are any distorted words, or if there are any words that need to be pre-taught. Teacher has to teach them and drill. Then you have the skills practiced, paralinguistic features, not only in role play, in all the speaking activities, they become a part of it. In role play and speeches, it's more. Role play, dialogue, speeches, you have a whole lot of paralinguistic features getting connected, unlike information gap. Loud reading, turn taking. Anything else that can get added up to this list?
The clarity of the information, the clarity of what you're going to say.
Yeah, intelligibility of speech. Yeah. Articulating clearly. Simulation. So we talked about stimulation activities. We are creating a particular situation in the class, not a real situation, but somewhat a miniature situation is created in the class. Right? So what can be the sub skills that get involved in simulation activities? Think of the possible sub speaking skills that are needed for this. If you are doing an interview, if you're conducting an interview in the class, a job interview, let's imagine you are the manager and there is an applicant and you are having a job, conducting a job interview. What can be the sub-speaking skills that can get related to that situation? Think of the possible skills. What happens in a job interview? As soon as you enter, what happens? Or maybe even after.
You greet the interview panel.
Right, greeting, responding. What else? What will the interviewer do?
Ask questions afterwards.
Ask questions, answering. If you want to know more information, what will we do?
We request for information.
Requesting, or maybe clarifying. If you want to make sure, if you want to double check certain things, you need clarification, right? So you practice the clarifying, the language function, clarifying becomes a part of it. Anything else? Agree, disagree,
Thanking.
thanking, yeah. So all those are some sub-speaking skills. Then comes giving instructions, a very simple speaking activity, mostly practiced with primary learners. Learner has to be given general instructions related to classroom situations, what they should do in the class and what they should not do in the class. Ground rules of the classroom, right? They have to come on time. They should not walk around the class or move in the classroom when the lessons are going on. They can't go out of the classroom while the teacher is conducting the lesson, unless for an emergency reason, right? So like that, giving instructions, very simple instructions, starting with imperatives. When it comes to primary grades, mostly imperatives. Open your book or maybe turn to such and such a page. Hang your bags on the, leave your drink bottles on the shelf, like that. Very simple instructions. Giving instructions and also following instructions. With the intermediate ones, you can have recipes, cooking a recipe, any kind of instruction, or making models. All these different situations can be utilized to give instruction. Complete the following grid using suitable information. Quickly tell me, what is the language function? Exponent or the teaching component used, and sub-speaking skill. Loud reading, you do it yourself first. I'll give you 5 minutes, do it yourself. Can you tell me the different speaking activities that we have discussed today, starting from discussions or even before that? What were the speaking activities? Whatever the activity that you remember, you just tell. What is it?
Information gap activities.
Right, information gap activity. What else did we discuss?
Discussions,
Discussions, debate, yeah.
role plays,
Role plays,
and then we have discussed about simulations.
simulations, and the last one?
Giving
Giving
instructions.
instructions.
Instructions, right? So altogether 6. I don't know whether it was 6 or more than 6, but basically 6 activities we have discussed. Simulations, instructions, role plays, debates, discussions, and something else, right? What is that?
This one, the ninth one says,
I
I
can't
tried
hear
this.
you.
I think 50 and 50.
Then how many?
60.
1 hour plus 5 minutes at 2, what? 10. Then what is the time? No, now it's 10:50.
Kaushi, mute your mic.
I'm sorry, madam.
Right. So basically, we looked at 6 kind of speaking activities, information gap activity, and all those things, right? Altogether 6. Now tell me, when it comes to loud reading, any possible language function that can get related to this activity. When you read aloud,
Is it fluency and pronunciation?
clarity of speech, right? Yeah, fluency more than, yeah, you can attribute fluency as well. Accuracy, pronunciation, fluency, right? All those can become a part of loud reading. Exponents used. Now for loud reading, you don't have exponents really, right? Now, may I, shall we, those are known to be the exponents. When it comes to loud reading, you don't have any kind of exponents. You just read out what is provided to you. Sub-speaking skills. Once again, articulation, right? Clarity of speech and articulation. For simulation, tell me, language function, any kind of language function.
Fluency, the flow of language.
No, language functions. We looked at simulation, right? When you are conducting a Sunday fair, what is the language function that you can practice over there?
Calling customers.
Requesting?
Arguing or maybe bargaining. That is a language function. Right? Can you reduce the price? Or how about you can't ask for increasing the quantity? Right? So arguing or maybe clarifying certain, it can be the price or it can be the quality or the quantity of a product. Requesting, asking for something. All those can be the language functions related to simulation. Think of an exponent. If it is going to be requesting, what kind of an exponent can be used to request?
Can I
You
have
want a kilo of beans. Yeah. Can I have? Right? Can I have? Or is it possible to get? Like that. Sub-speaking skills. What are the sub-speaking skills that are needed
articulating?
in simulation? Articulating, pronunciation.
Fluency.
They can come for all the different activities. You can apply them. It's common like. Prepared speech, tell me. Language functions, it depends on the speech. Asking questions, right? Rhetorical questions, use of rhetorical questions. You don't expect an answer, but you just, when it comes to a speech, you have questions.
Paraphrasing.
Paraphrasing, emphasizing. You emphasize your point, viewpoint. It's a language function, emphasizing. Exponents, of course, it depends. When you emphasize certainly or maybe obviously, like that. And sub-speaking skills, since it is a speech, something to do with tone, pause, pitch. How do you call them collectively? Tell me the word. Facial expressions. What phonemes?
Gestures.
Gestures, yeah, gestures, body language. Suprasegments, right? Suprasegmental aspects or suprasegmental phonemes. Announcing. Tell for announcing any language function.
Greetings.
Greetings.
Addressing.
Addressing, requesting, repeating, right? You tend to
Delivering
repeat
information.
yeah, key information or maybe certain key phrases or pieces of information are repeated. Providing information, exponents. You can use any kind of exponent depending on the function, right? So if it is going to be emphasizing or agreeing, disagreeing, you don't have agreeing and disagreeing coming in announcing. Words and phrases that can be used to perform that function, you can include as exponents. Sub-speaking skills, clarity of speech, supra-segments, pronunciation, articulation, everything can get included. Similarly, you do for problem solving, right? Look at your self-study task.
Madam, what are the language exponents?
For which one?
Announcing.
Announcing. Language exponents depend on the language functions. Now, if it is for greeting, you can, how are you going to greet when it comes to an announcement? Actually, you don't greet, you draw the attention of the audience or the listeners, right? Attention, please. So that can be your language exponent. Exponent means the language that you are using to perform the act of drawing the attention. Look at the task, go through it. List down a minimum of 6 speaking activities separately that can be used in primary grades. One set for primary and another set for secondary. Now tell me for primary ones, very simple ones. You can't use debates, discussions and things in the primary grade. So just tell me some simple speaking activities like instructions, giving instructions or responding instructions. What can be another activity that you can do with primary children? reading aloud, right? So reading aloud is the starting point of speaking. So that can be done with primary ones. Even with weak adults, we do it. So why not do it in the primary grades? Reading aloud, giving commands or instructions. Think of 4 more simple ones.
Introducing themselves.
Self-introduction, okay.
Recitation and poems and process, that also can be included, no, madam? That's also,
Yeah,
it's a kind of
depending
public
on the
speaking.
length of the poem. More than recitation, you can do recitation, but something similar to recitation, which is almost done in classes.
Similar to recitation, madam, you're saying?
Yes, similar to recitation means not identical. Hickory dickory dock, all those things, what are they?
Those are rhymes, nursery rhymes.
Rhymes and songs, right? Rhymes and songs. They too fall under the speaking activities. So rhymes and songs basically more or less dependent on memory, but still the learner is made to articulate some words and phrases, right? So you can't expect much from the primary kids. Therefore, that can be a starting point. Loud reading, songs and rhymes, recitation. What else did we include? Instructions. Think of 2 more things, activities. Information gap also you can do, providing a simple one, not very advanced information gap, but a simple picture and asking them to ask and answer questions. Maybe the difference in color, you give a ball or some object colored in different colors and they are made to ask and answer the differences that are found in colors. A limited kind of a information gap activity can be done. Secondary ones, tell me. So you have got 6. You should have got 6. For secondary, you have plenty. Tell me, any 6 activities?
Storytelling.
Storytelling here also you can, right? You can make them to memorize the story and not lengthy ones. A fable, using fables.
Madam, can we use Guess Who game for the primary grades?
Yeah, you can, but it depends. The object that you make them guess and the clues that you give should be according to their level. Now it can be just a simple animal. You can ask them to guess a simple animal like that of a dog or a cat. Or maybe a food item that they know, rice and curry or burger, pizza, like that. So depends on the object that you make them to guess and the clues, very simple clues. So for secondary, you have many discussion debates like that. We have discussed several, you include them. Highlight the sub-skills, sub-speaking skills that can be taught through each activity. At least one any 2 sub-speaking skills you have to mention, right, for both. Write the activity and against it, just mention any 2 sub-speaking skills. Not language function, sub-speaking skills. Remember those 8 sub-speaking skills? Connect them to these activities and write. Provide a model or a sample of any 3 activities indicating the grade. If you are planning to do a discussion activity, You need to mention the grade. It can be grade 8. You have to mention the sub-skill that is focused through that discussion, like agree, disagree, or putting forward a suggestion, and the time duration that you are going to take. You have to write the activity first, write these first, and then underneath explain the activity. Got it? Storytelling means you have to give the fable, mention the fable, indicate the class and the sub-skills involved in storytelling, and maybe the duration of the story, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, like that. Right,
Madam,
that's, yeah.
the game for the difference. Can we use that game for the both classes or only for the primary grades?
No, you can
Does it
use.
depend on their level?
Yeah, you can use. That's why I told you, you can use very simple pictures for information, spot the difference, basically information gap activities. Even with the primary graders, you can use it. It doesn't matter.
Yes, okay.
And for the third one, provide a model. That means we give the if it's storytelling, and then we have to give all these 3 points.
You have to mention the story. If it is the Fox and the Grapes, you have to mention the title Fox and the Grapes. Write that fable, and under that you need to mention that what is that, the grade, sub-skill and time. If you are giving an information gap activity, give both the pictures, mention the grade for which you are going to assign those pictures and the time, rough time duration.
Okay.
Sub-skills and the time duration.
Thank you.
Right. Anything else that you need to clarify?
Madam, I couldn't get the question number 3 actually. Like provide a model and sample of any 3 activities. When you say model, what do you intend?
Model activity, right? So the model of an activity, if it is going to be a story, you have to give the story. You have to write out the story. It can be the crow and the pot of water or any kind of story. Put the title and write the story. Underneath, write for which grade you are planning to teach this story as a speaking activity. If it is for
And the
grade,
sub-skills and the time duration, no, madam?
yes, yes.
When you mention any 3 activities indicating, like what is mentioned below are the 3 activities, no?
Yeah, these are the activities. Now I am going on the wrong direction. Yeah, these are the activities. It can be the debate, it can be discussion, it can be any kind you have. Now,
Okay.
these are not for the primary grade. When it comes to the secondary, you can mention these activities. Similarly, you find some other activities for primary ones, right? So activities means these are the activities that you're going to mention over there. Now, if it is a debate, you have to obviously mention the topic of the debate. What are they going to have debate on which topic? That should be mentioned over there.
Okay, madam, understood.
Anything else? Are you in need of this slide? No. Okay, then we'll wind up the session and I'll be meeting you on next Saturday. Okay. Good night. Take care.
Good night, ma'am.
Right, thank you, madam.
Right, madam.
Thank you, madam. Good night.